Hello there. I have days when I love to come into work, and particularly so today because I have here a mature bottle of a Trockenbeerenauslese from a producer called Alois Kracher. This is a 1999 Number 7 Chardonnay Trockenbeerenauslese from their Nouvelle Vague range. It's only a half bottle, but I'm thinking this is going to be something quite special. The designation Number 7 is its number within the collection for 1999 wines. Weinlaubenhof Kracher was started in the mid 20th century by Alois Kracher Senior, that is, and he planted, I believe, most of the vines, or most of the vineyards that the winery possesses. He was joined in 1981 by his son, also Alois, so known as Louis to differentiate between the two of them. And Louis was a trained chemist, and he worked really hard to catapult the reputation of this small family winery to the stratospheric heights of wine during the 1990s. So in 1991 he took over the family estate, and alas, Alois Jr., Louis, died in 2007 at quite an early age, and was succeeded by his son Gerhard, who today runs the winery with his wife Yvonne. But I mean, by the time Louis passed, the reputation of Kracher as a winery was absolutely sort of one of the world's best sweet wine producers, and very justifiably. The vines here grow on in a region called Zwischen, which is a plain which is to the west of the Neusiedl, which is a huge shallow lake in the southeast of Austria. And this plain rises, a couple of meters in places, but is very much at the level of the lake. There isn't much elevation at all. And it's an area that is great for growing sweet wine because the area's climate is a Pannonian climate, and that means it's a continental climate with a hot summer, a very cold winter. But the hot summers, certainly during the autumn, promote the creation of fogs in the evening, and the fog will last overnight, bringing humidity to the vineyards and to the grapes, and promoting the concentration of botrytis. But then when the morning sun comes, that fog burns away, allowing the grapes to dry out and preventing them from becoming rotten and disgusting. It allows the creation of botrytis, this noble rot, which concentrates the grapes, concentrates their sugars, concentrates their flavours, concentrates their acidity. The estate has two ranges of wines. One of them, the Zwischen, between two lakes, that translates as, I'm told, which is a traditional range of sweet wines, and then this Nouvelle Vague range that's noted on the label here. And these are wines that are aged in new oak barrels, and vinified and aged in new oak barrels, so that the fruit is picked almost certainly in a number of passes through the vineyard, so that they're selecting individual berries. That's what Trockenbeerenauslese literally translates as. These are dried, individually selected berries with this botrytis fungus. So there's a long, arduous harvest, carefully selecting these berries. Vinification, as I say, goes on in new oak barrique, so 225 litre barrel traditionally, and then the wine stays in that aging with its finales for almost 2 years, 22 months. The analytics on this wine are worth sharing because they're pretty impressive. The sweetness level of this is 226 grams per litre, so that's a very sweet wine. But part of the thing about botrytis, as I say, that it also concentrates acidity, which helps to make a balanced sweet wine. And this has 8.9 grams per litre of acidity. But as a result of the high sweetness, we only have 10.5% of alcohol. Producing a sweet wine is actually you have to be quite skillful, because you're actually balancing three elements there: the sweetness, the acidity, and the alcohol. So let's have a look at this, shall we? I mean, first thing to say is that's an incredibly developed colour. It's amber with a tawny core there. It almost sort of something in it. There is a beautiful sort of amber to the edge there, but it's almost sort of like looking at a sort of a treacle, I suppose also in the way that the wine flows, because it's quite viscous with its sweetness there. It is creating legs on the glass, but not enormously so. I suppose the fact that it's only 10.5% alcohol is going to prevent it from being too thick. So let's have a look at the aromas, shall we, and see what we make of those. Wow. There really is there's an almost sort of treacle-like note there. It actually makes me think of pineapple, but I think that's the sort of the freshness of the style there. And then sultanas, raisins, dried figs. It's that sort of quite concentrated, rich dried fruit notes. Nothing savoury there at all. There's a lovely sort of lifted, as I say, sort of sultana fig note to it. So let's taste, shall we? Unsurprisingly, the wine is very sweet. There is actually some really good acidity right on the front of the tongue there. You've got almost notes of sort of treacle, burned sugar, dried date, dried fig, sultana, raisin, all those notes in there. There's a slightly sort of orange peel, candied peel, those sort of notes there. But actually the freshness at the beginning of the wine was really quite impressive. The wine isn't finishing sugary or cloying. I mean, it's got quite a sort of a syrupy texture, but there is this sort of freshness and that sort of, as I said, this candied peel sort of bite that's coming through at the end there. The flavours are lasting beautifully. I mean, I think this is a wine that's at full maturity now, but there's no hurry to drink it up. That acidity and that concentration should allow it to last for another, 5 to 10 years very happily, and probably longer. What would you have this with? Well, I mean, the suggestion that the winery makes is that actually it's a wine of meditation, a wine to drink and just consider, perhaps at the end of a meal. I mean, the obvious pairing would be with blue cheese. And the other thing this might actually work with is a sort of something like a creme brulee or something like that, where the sort of the notes of burnt sugar would perfectly complement that sort of thing there. I should imagine it would also go beautifully with sort of fresh fruit notes as well, but then I think that is the case for most sweet wines, where the two would complement each other really beautifully. So I think this is a wine that's sort of in its mid-20s, coming up to its mid-20s. It has lovely freshness, it has concentration, it has beautiful character. This really is a world-class wine. It's got such lovely balance. The flavours are continuing on very delicately on my palate. Everything's completely in balance. The alcohol isn't intruding on this beautiful rich fruit. The high sugar level isn't cloying at all. It's a wine with beautiful poise and elegance, and I mean, I think the wines from this area of the Zeewinkel around Illmitz can be superb, and certainly Kracher as a winery are right up there at the top level quality wines. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you'll like and share the video. Please leave your comments. Any experience you've had drinking these wines or other wines from the Burgenland region would be great to hear about. But most importantly, I do hope you'll be able to find the time to join us for another tasting really soon. Thank you very much. Bye now.